The Nobel Prize is considered by many to be the highest award in science. However, there is a growing number of winners who, after receiving their prize, start to behave in strange ways. Referred to as Nobel Disease, this condition occurs when Nobel laureates start to express support and advocate for ideas that would be considered disproven, unscientific, offensive, or completely insane. 4 years after the creation of the award in 1905, Philipp Lenard would receive the Nobel Prize in Physics due to his work on cathode rays. His research would greatly expand our understanding of electrons, which had just been discovered 8 years earlier. Later in life, he would be a main advocate for Aryan physics, a scientific movement in Germany that would reject theoretical physics such as quantum mechanics and the theory of relativity, largely on the grounds that Jewish scientists had been involved in their creation. He would receive large support in Germany as Jewish physicists were being exiled from the country. Ironically, though, after years of harassing Werner Heisenberg for supporting theoretical physics, Heisenberg's mother would call the mother of Heinrich Himmler, the leader of the SS and one of the most powerful men in Germany. This would lead to Himmler promising Heisenberg that after Germany won the Second World War, a new physics institute would be created to be led by Heisenberg and not Lenard. In 1913, Charles Richet would win the Nobel Prize for Medicine due to his discovery of anaphylactic shock. He would spend a large amount of his time investigating extrasensory perception and the paranormal, attempting to find a physical method that could explain the phenomenon. Although he would coin the term ectoplasm, he did not believe in ghosts or spirits, and instead he would advocate a belief in a sixth sense that humans had that could be used for extrasensory perception and psychokinesis. He would investigate several mediums and support two, claiming that they both had genuine psychic powers, even though one would later be revealed as a fraud by Harry Houdini. He was also a believer in eugenics and in the inferiority of black people. Linus Pauling would win the Nobel Prize in 1954 for chemistry. A few years earlier, he would be diagnosed with Bright's disease, a type of kidney condition. He would treat this with a specialized diet and vitamin supplementation, leading him to study theories on the effects of vitamins on disease. He would coin the term orthomolecular, and in 1968 would publish a paper entitled Orthomolecular Psychiatry, which would later develop into orthomolecular medicine. This type of alternative medicine believes that diseases in humans are reflective of deficiencies in nutrients. Their practice, also called megavitamin therapy, would attempt to use high levels of vitamins and supplements to treat disease. In 1973, Pauling would found the Institute of Orthomolecular Medicine in California, which would later be renamed the Linus Pauling Institute of Science and Medicine. He would start to advocate the use of high-dose vitamin C for a range of conditions. In 1972, a Scottish surgeon, Ewan Cameron, hypothesized that vitamin C could be used to suppress cancer development, and he, along with Pauling, would conduct a clinical trial on 100 patients with terminal cancer. However, despite showing success in their trial, as well as an independent clinical trial in Japan, an additional clinical trial would be done by Charles Mortel at the Mayo Clinic, and it would show no improvement in cancer patients that were taking high-dose vitamin C. Pauling would criticize these trials, claiming that they delivered vitamin C orally and not intravenously, leading to altered results. Additionally, the Mayo Clinic trials would stop administration of vitamin C and switch to traditional chemotherapy when a patient developed signs of tumor progression, causing their trial to be very short, only 2.5 months compared to the 12-month time of Pauling's trial. Nevertheless, the scientific community largely accepted the Mayo Clinic's results, and this would end broader scientific interest in vitamin C in cancer treatment, despite Pauling advocating it for its use until his death. Today, megavitamin therapy continues as a form of alternative medicine with many supporters. But recently, there has been a renewed interest in the use of intravenous high-dose vitamin C for cancer treatment. So perhaps Linus wasn't as wrong as people may have thought. He would also suggest that individuals who carry genetic defects be physically marked to discourage them from reproducing with others who carry the same defect. So maybe still not a great guy after all. William Shockley would be part of a group of 3 who would share the Nobel Prize in 1956 in physics for developing the transistor, an incredibly important invention that would replace vacuum tubes and lead to the development of modern electronics. Interestingly, if you've ever played any game from the Fallout series, a key point is that the transistor was never invented, leading to the continued use of large and efficient computers. Although an acclaimed physicist, he held no degree in genetics or biological sciences, but this wouldn't stop him from entering the field late in life as an advocate for eugenics. He would raise concerns about a high rate of reproduction among less intelligent individuals and suggest sterilization of individuals with an IQ below 100. Although he believed black people were inferior to white people, Shockley would say that he wasn't a white supremacist, saying that East Asians and Jewish people were superior to white people. Keep in mind this occurred in the 1970s, and Shockley received a large amount of criticism for not having any evidence to support his claims, effectively destroying his credibility. In a similar vein, James Watson would win the Nobel Prize along with Francis Crick for his discovery of the structure of DNA in 1962. In 1990, he was appointed the head of the Human Genome Project, although he would step down 2 years later. He would be heavily criticized in 1997 from both LGBTQ and pro-life organizations for saying if a gene determining homosexuality was discovered, it would be all right for a woman to have an abortion on the grounds that they didn't want a gay child. He would respond and say he was misquoted, advocating abortion for any reason, such as potential height or potential lack of musical ability. This would draw further criticism. He would continuously advocate for genetic engineering, saying in 2003, quote, "People say it would be terrible if we made all girls pretty. I think it would be great." As well as arguing that stupidity was a disease and that the bottom 10% of people should be cured, Watson would also support a link between sun exposure and sexual activity, citing no evidence, as well as a personal belief that fat people were not hard workers. In 2012, he would say at the Euroscience Open Forum in Dublin, when asked about women in science, quote, "I think having all these women around makes it more fun for the men, but they're probably less effective." His most controversial claims would be based on race, arguing that stereotypes of races have a genetic basis and advocating the belief that black people have a lower IQ based on genetics. In 2007, he would say he was, quote, "inherently gloomy about the prospect of Africa, because all our social policies are based on the fact that their intelligence is the same as ours, whereas all the testing says not really." Although saying that there may be a natural desire that all human beings should be equal, he would say, quote, "People who have to deal with black employees find this not true." As late as 2019, he would continue to support these beliefs, and he would receive high levels of criticism and be largely written off as a genuinely terrible person. Hans Alfven would win the Nobel Prize in 1970 for physics. He would oppose the Big Bang theory and invent his own system, plasma cosmology. As opposed to the Big Bang, plasma cosmology states that the universe has always existed, in either a steady state or eternally cycling, and that electromagnetic forces and magnetic fields are the fundamental forces that shape the universe, as opposed to gravity. His theories would not gain mainstream support, with critics pointing out the lack of evidence for plasma cosmology and the existence of cosmic microwave background radiation providing support for the Big Bang theory. Brian Josephson would win the 1973 Nobel Prize in Physics for his discovery of the Josephson effect, a macroscopic quantum phenomenon that has been used in the creation of quantum computing and superconducting quantum interference devices. He would become very interested in transcendental meditation, philosophy of the mind, and the mind-body problem. After winning the Nobel Prize, he would start to focus more on parapsychological phenomenon. He would become involved in the fundamental physics group in the mid-1970s, a research group that was part of the Stanford Research Institute, an institute that had received funding from the CIA to investigate parapsychological claims. There, he would investigate quantum physics and the paranormal. He would argue that there could be a quantum mechanical basis for mind-matter interactions, believing that consciousness could have unknown interactions at the quantum level that would explain the existence of ESP, psychokinesis, precognition, and telepathy. His ideas would not receive much support, leading him in later years to become critical of the scientific community, stating that, quote, "anything goes among the physics community, cosmic wormholes, time travel, just so long as it keeps its distance from anything mystical or New Age-ish." Despite retiring, he is still relatively active, continuing to write and support his ideas. In 1993, Kary Mullis would win the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for his work on inventing the polymerase chain reaction, also known as PCR. This technique allowed for a quick and easy method to amplify DNA, and is now a fundamental practice across biological sciences. Necessary for DNA sequencing, medical diagnostics, gene editing, The importance of PCR cannot be overstated. In his graduate studies, Mullis would secretly synthesize hallucinogens, stating that the use of LSD had assisted him in developing PCR. He would question the link between AIDS and HIV, leading many to describe him as an AIDS denialist. In his 1998 autobiography, he would support a range of other unorthodox ideas. He would express a belief in the paranormal, stating that he had interacted with the ghost of his deceased grandfather, as well as being visited by a glowing raccoon who may have been an alien. It's unknown if his use of hallucinogens had any influence on these events. Luc Montagnier would win the 2008 Nobel Prize for his part in the discovery of the human immunodeficiency virus, or HIV. The following year, he would publish a highly controversial paper arguing that DNA from pathogenic bacteria and viral species was able to produce radio waves associated with nanostructures that could be able to recreate the pathogen. In 2010, he would attend a meeting with 60 other Nobel Prize winners, as well as hundreds of other scientists. At this meeting, he would put forward research stating that even after high dilutions of DNA in water, to the point where no DNA was present, there was still an electromagnetic signal. This idea is very similar to water memory, a concept that water could, in a way, remember substances even after the point of dilution where none of the original substance remained. This idea is very popular in homeopathy, and thus led to Montagnier receiving high amounts of criticism. After not being able to secure funding in the West, he would move to China to continue his research. There are certainly more winners who I could have mentioned, but I hope this video gave you some insight into Nobel Disease. It's interesting to see how winners can range from disagree on a minor agreed upon scientific belief all the way to complete derangement. As for the cause of this phenomenon, there are several that have been suggested. As the prize is given out at the peak of a scientist's work, winners naturally start to decline and are more susceptible to conspiracy in their later years. It has also been theorized that narcissists are more likely to win, as they are more likely to pursue a prize than other personality types. Some have also disputed the phenomenon, stating that there isn't a higher rate of fantastical theories relative to the general population. However, even if this is the case, Nobel laureates are supposed to be the greatest minds and shouldn't be identical to the average person. Personally, I think that the esteem of winning a Nobel Prize can cause winners to become very prideful and narcissistic, a condition which many scientists are already suffering from. This can lead to confirmation bias and cause the Nobel laureate to start to speak as an expert on matters in fields where they really aren't. Be sure to let me know in the comments which of these winners you think supported the most ridiculous ideas. For me, it's got to be James Watson, truly someone who exemplifies Nobel disease. Thanks for watching. Later.